So VP culture is the balance, the target culture. We're going to have these 3 sciences that we're looking for. Why do these work? Why these 3? So personality science treats people from their past. Like, who are you coming into the organization? You have to know that person's personality. Emotional science is engaging with the present. Our emotions are a now thing. When you can do the now thing correctly, you'll be able to move into the present. And then there's value sciences. What are we creating in the future? Past, present, future creates that dynamic with individuals and teams. That's why these 3 modalities work. So we're going to look at personality science first, and this is lots of fun. It's a 30-year-old breakthrough that people haven't, it's like this scientific discovery that happened 30 years ago that nobody knows about it. I go around for organization to organization, I'm like, do you guys do this? Some people know about it, like, oh, I studied that once. But imagine if you knew the fundamental DNA of how about every person works. There are 5 pieces of every person that if you knew what proportion of that person held this, you would be able to predict what's your name?
Andrew.
I could predict what Andrew does. I could predict how he sees the world, how he's going to behave 9 times out of 10. If I knew what his DNA of personality was, that would be a superpower. Imagine if you could do that with everybody you'd encounter. That would change your life forever, and it has. Like my relationships inside of work, my relationship with my wife, it turns out we're like, I don't know, this happens in marriages. Like we're the most, like we go on the test and we're total opposites, you know? And so it's been a superpower for us because we've learned what another person is. And my kids, they each have a different grouping because we're totally diverse, so our kids get a whole bunch of bonus stuff. Imagine if you could relate to everyone knowing exactly what put them together. It changes your life and the way you function. So the DNA of personality. 30 years of research have gone into this. It's the most widely studied in psychology, so much so that it's become a law of psychology. And if you're into psychology, you know, I'm doing my master's degree in it now, and you never find any laws of psychology, okay? This is the only one. Because, why? It works with all ethnicities, all genders, all ages. They've done studies all over the world. In every language, this test works. There's nothing more psychologically validated than that and more generalizable than this study. So that's the little geeky background. What do we want? The fundamental nature of human beings is we want to be known and understood. When we feel known and understood, we feel valued. Primary connection. So it's invaluable to know someone. Like if you know your kid's personality, you can interact with them in a different way than you would your other kid because they have a different personality. And your wife, and all your employees, the people you work with. And this is what Gallup has studied. If you engage with someone's strengths, you are engaging them in 70% more engagement. So that 50% is probably not being led to their strengths. They're going to be like, you know, this is not like your personality to do that, and you stink at doing that. Well, no, duh. It's not my personality. Like, I'm dyslexic. If you give me like a spelling test, I'm going to fail it every time. And you're like, how come you're no good at spelling? Well, duh. You know, how come if you put me in a cubicle and maybe work there all by myself forever, I as an extrovert would languish? Because that's my personality. Okay? So we get more engaged when we're led to our strengths. People don't know themselves. Most often, HR directors give these personality tests to people when they come into jobs to make sure that they don't take a job they'd hate. This is how much people don't know themselves. Oh, I love that job. Can I have that job? And like, give you the personality test. No, you hate this job. You know, so people don't know themselves. And I find that most leaders cannot name the 5 factors of personality. 5 words that you need to know more than any else in the English dictionary are these 5 words. It takes some investment to learn this, and what I find is it takes investment. People give up on it early because like, I don't get it. It takes a little investment. When you start giving it to your colleagues, your wife, your family, your friends, you start seeing, oh, that's what that does to that person. That's what that trait does. You start learning it, and you start being able to operate in this mentality and predict it much more. Okay, so so here are the 5 factors. Ready? So this is on your notes. You can write these down, and please do write them down because we're going to do some exercises with them later. Openness. So there's an acronym you'll see there. It spells OCEAN. It's a mnemonic device. So openness, that means you're prone to new experiences and intellect. You like ideas. You like artwork. You like exploring things. Openness people. Conscientious people. These people love to work. They can have high rates of industry and orderliness. They work hard even when they don't like it. They just keep going. They don't know why. I have a friend that's high in this. I'm like, do you like what you do? No, I hate it. Why do you do it so much? I don't know. I can't stop. Extroversion. These are the people that are always enthusiastic and assertive. We should all do this. Come on, let's all go. Let's all go. Let's all go. Yay, it's going to be great. That's what an extrovert is. Agreeableness. These are the people that always, they just don't stand out in the crowd because they're always being polite and compassionate and compliant. They want to find out what the rules are in life and do them. So they never disobey. They hate that. That makes them feel uncomfortable. So you can imagine how these people would be great in sometimes in an organization. Then there's neuroticism. And people like the science guys that came up with this word, weren't actually in marketing, So I know Greek, and this is the root word for nevro. That means your nerve. So they have sensitive nerves. So basically their limbic system scans for danger, and it's very, very good at detecting danger. So you imagine what life would be like if you could scan for danger and could find it very quickly. They're the ones that can detect that. Oh, that person's face. My daughter is really high in this, and she's in the Army. And it's actually very helpful. She can run the Army like that sergeant, that guy, and she'll know exactly how to play the system because she's very high in neuroticism, but she says, Dad, it's very hard to carry. So it's somebody that you want on your team because they'll keep you out of danger, but it's very difficult for them to carry it. So not the nicest of the traits to have, to carry as a human being, but definitely when you have people that are on your team, you're like, should I? Because extroversion people are so enthusiastic and optimism that sometimes they don't see danger and they just fall right into it. So we'll see how these people relate in a team. But you get these 3 superpowers once you start to understand personality science. So this is what they are. You get acceptance of self and others. You get to predict perceptions of self and others. Predict behaviors of self and others. So I get to accept you. Why is the accept? We'll go through each one of these in more detail. So acceptance, prediction of perceptions, and prediction of behaviors. Okay, how does this change your team meetings? Well, first of all, you accept yourself. You have a greater self-understanding. You know what jobs you're going to like and which ones you don't. You know your traits and your tendencies. You know how you're going to interact well with others and how you're not going to interact well with others. Do things that fit you. You're not going to be envious of others all the time. I used to look at my friends and colleagues, like I have a friend who's super high in conscientiousness, so he's always working, he's always organized. I'm like, how do you do that all the time? I wish I could be like you. And he was like, no, you don't. Because I look at you and I want to be like you. Because you have, I'm a higher extrovert and open, and you're always in these ideas and you're always having a great time. He works hard, but he doesn't enjoy it. I work on stuff and don't get as much accomplished in the straight line, but I enjoy it. So it's like, the thing is, you can't change these traits. We'll look at other traits you can change, but these are non-changeable. So accept them in yourself. Don't think, oh, I just need to listen to that internet guru and become that other person. No, know who you are and accept who you are, and you'll have greater contentment in your life. You won't envy others' traits, you'll appreciate them, and you'll appreciate your own. You'll accept your self-weaknesses. So here's an interesting way of looking at this. So I'm low in agreeableness, which means I'm low in politeness. Okay? So my wife will like, how can you do that? Like what? Like just go up to that person and tell them what to do. Like, what? That's just normal. Doesn't everybody do that? That's a great trait for a salesperson to have. They can go like, I need this price. Why? Well, because. So they can be very assertive. But they're not always, so they might be great at negotiating price, but they're not always great at creating consensus, you see. So you need my wife to help create consensus, and she's a therapist. And so each trait has a superpower, great at negotiating, bad at consensus building. But you can't have both. The person who's got like 50% of it can kind of understand both things, but they're not super strong in either. So that's why you have to accept it. And that's why I can say, I struggle with politeness. So when I call up the customer service agent, I have to really be like, okay, be polite, be polite. I have to work at it because it's an unseen person that I don't see. I have to work at it, So I know that about myself. And I'll tell other people, like when I work in groups, it's like I will assert my ideas very, very powerfully because I'm also an extrovert, so I'm assertive and not always polite. So my wife is like, we work together as leaders, and so it's like I appreciate it. I'm like, I'm weak in this. I'm going to blurt things out, and so I have to tone it down and let her speak up because I know that together we encompass both of those traits, and so I can accept them. And so I can maximize my own strength and accept my weaknesses. So here's the problem. We have the fundamental attribution error. So this is a new thing. How do we accept others? Every human being has this thing hardwired into their brains that if somebody's doing something different than you, that's a character flaw. Because I'm low in order, not as high in orderliness as my wife, I don't know where things go in the kitchen. And she's like, that's a character flaw. And, well, I just don't even see it, and we'll see how it works sometimes. So, and the same thing, like I'll give her a paper that I just wrote, and she'll say, you missed a comma here and spelled this wrong. I'm like, but what about the idea? She's like, what idea? Oh yeah, that was okay. But she's the best, grammar editor I can meet, but she's not going to be the idea person. I have other friends that I'll go for the ideas. But I would say, because you only look at the commas, you're bad, because that's not what I do. And she'll look at me and go like, because you don't put the commas in the right place, she's less of that because she's more agreeable. But we'll see each other's flaws or weaknesses as fundamental character flaws. We'll ascribe bad motives to others. How come that person doesn't come up with as many ideas as I do? It's so easy. Why can't they just see it? They just must be stick in the muds. They must not think about it when they drive home from work like I do. Lazy people. Well, so this is not my way is a fault. This is everyone's default mindset is that if you don't do it like me, it's wrong. But when you start to see personality differences, you can say that's just a different personality. You can start accepting other personalities. So if your personality doesn't change over time, you have to start accepting it. Okay, I used to think my wife was just a broken extrovert. Like, you just need to get over this and get into the extrovert world. It's much better. You'll like it. And then I read Susan Cain's book about the secret power of extroverts. And I'm like, every chapter, I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Every strength has its weakness. So an introvert like my wife, she's got the weakness of she doesn't love. She can do this. She can teach in front of crowds, and she does great at it. But she doesn't love this. Like takes tons more energy than it does for me. So that's her strength and her weakness. But she's a therapist, so she can see everything. So she's much more dialed into like what that person's feeling, and I'm just using my head to try to work my way through it. Okay, you need others around you. So when I sit at a table with my team, I can say, I'm not going to be good at politeness. How should we approach this when we talk to that other teammate, that other organization over there? What am I missing here? And I'll look to my daughter and kids that I know are high in neuroticism, like, what do you see? Is there anything wrong with this program? Or what about that person that we want to take on as a vendor? What did you feel about them? What was your vibe? My wife will be like, no. What is it? I don't know. But I'm like, better listen to it. The neurotic person knows. So you need others. So in my team, I can say, you're really strong at this. You lead this. You're going to be enthusiastic, but you're going to hate learning the software. So we'll bring somebody who's high in openness next to the extrovert, put them together, and then we have woohoo and I'm excited about this, and help these other people that are high in rule following that they don't like new software. They're low in openness. But we need them. Once we get them tooled on it, they'll love it, and they'll follow it better than you open people, because you open people want to learn another piece of software. You see how it's all working together? So predicting perceptions. So we do this subcortical filtering so that your brain is filtering stuff out all the time. because it's very expensive for your brain to think about things. So your auditory circuits are filtering. So I, as an extrovert, my brain automatically filters out 90% of noise. So I can sit there with full blast, more than I feel it, on my computer, like, my wife is like, what are you doing? All of that stimulus, you're just like, ah. I have my phone on like 3, and she'll be like, what is that noise? An introvert doesn't have the same acoustic filters. They get everything and it overwhelms them. An extrovert has huge acoustic filters. So she'll say, you don't listen to me. I'm like, no, I don't hear half of what's going on, literally. Or she hears everything. The visual cortex filters thing. When I was studying neuroscience in University of Chicago, the interesting thing is they'll say, so you get 100,000 bits of information that go into your eye. It goes back into the occipital lobe, which processes all the visual information, and 10 bits come out. What is your visual cortex doing? Your personality is like, well, you don't need this, don't need that, don't need this, don't need that. It's chucking things out. It's your personality is actually a filter for all your senses. So it works through your sense filters. More data goes into your filters, into your senses and understanding, then comes out. And it shoves up a little bit up to your brain, go, pay attention to this. And what do you think it shoves up? Only what your personality dictates. So somebody else, my wife, will see, my daughter will see every single person's face and see immediately what's going on. I will hear what everyone's saying and hear what idea they're talking about and think about, how could I win this debate? Because I'm high in openness and intellect. And my daughter's like, no, 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 no. See that person over there? She's feeling this, and she's feeling that. You need to, and she's usually right. And she knows exactly how to handle every person. So that's what the subcortical filtering is doing for every personality. You see why you need everyone to be able to see anything in life in your team? A well-rounded team is going to see much more. Here's a video about perception.
I'm going to show you something that's not completely legal.
Amazing. Did you happen to notice all the things that have changed since the scene began? Action.
I'm going to show you something that's not completely legal.
Go! Here.
While we held your attention on the money, the table turned to a stool.
Go!
Apollo magically got a new hat and handkerchief. And all the posters and cards in the background changed.
Your brain just played a trick on you. We all think we're paying close attention to the world around us. But strange as it may sound, this is just an illusion. Go! Misdirection is an elegant form of attention control. Our brains only allow us to really focus on one thing at a time. So when we have you decipher a mystery down here, another mystery can be happening back here.
So, did you miss the 8 things that changed throughout the scene? Don't feel bad if you were fooled.
So that's what every personality is doing, filtering stuff out. You think your brain is, and you have that perception like, oh, I saw everything. No, 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 you didn't. Your perceptions are limited and filtered. So here are the 5 perception filters. New ideas and experiences are equivalent to the openness person. Ordering things is the conscientious person. Optimism and enthusiasm is the extrovert perception. Rules and compliance are the agreeableness filter. Danger and safety are the neuroticism's filter. So, new software. How would an agreeable person see new software? I'll leave this up. You can also take a picture with it there and fill those in. So this is what people are filtering. This is what they're seeing. So new software. The openness, people are like, yay, new software, something new to learn, woo! I've had employees who are like, oh, I don't want to learn new software. That would be horrible. That's the worst thing ever. My wife is on the worst thing ever. And I just like, oh, great. I'll learn new software on purpose because I'm just so curious. Ordering things. You know, my wife has a place for everything. I have a place for most things, but not everything. Optimism and enthusiasm. I have an employee that everything is exciting. You know, she's a great person to have on your team because it's like, she's been with me for 5 years and it's like, everything is exciting. Like, can you type all these things in here? Sure, that'll be fun. Like, okay. You know, and you think, well, she's not as high in orderliness, so I have to order things for her. But I have to say, like, okay, she needs more ordering than the average person, but I know that she's low in that. So I used to think, she just doesn't do this. I had that fundamental attribution error. She's doing this on purpose. No, she isn't. But then I have to look and like, what does she bring? Every day in work, she comes in and she's happy. Like, who comes into work happy every day? These people do. Rules and compliance. So if you go on vacation, that's the other one. Do you go to the Airbnb and do you read the rule book first? See all the rules? Like, okay, what are all the rules we have to follow so we don't, hey, you can't put that towel there. No, no. Or do you open up the drapes and go, this is going to be great. Look, we can do all this stuff. My wife is the rule reader and I'm the, look at all this stuff. Deadline. You know, the deadline for the conscientious person is like, how do we order this? How do we get this done? That means I'm going to work all night to get it done. The enthusiastic person's just going to be like, yay, we're going to get it done. And then the deadline will come like, we didn't get it done, but oh well. It was fun trying. Predict the behaviors. Okay, so here, I'll put all of these up. Okay, well, this is the background. So again, more subcortical filtering. So your lower brain, the lower brain is extracting data and eliminating behaviors. You have this thing called the basal ganglia that turns off behaviors. So everybody cross your arms. Okay, now do it the other way. Isn't that weird? Doesn't that feel weird? That's because your basal ganglia has a way that you cross your arms. And that feels totally normal, but it has inhibited the other way. No, Randall, that's a no. We don't do our arms like that. No, no. And so you feel that when you do it. It's like, I don't even know how to do my arms this way. I'm just a simple thing. That's because your basal ganglia has inhibited the alternate way. So that's the way personalities are, not just with how you do your hands, but with all your behaviors. There's a system that basically says no to a bunch of things. So you need to match your tasks and jobs to your personality. Find a job that matches you. Do the tasks that match you. Find your employees that match the task. Use your strengths to overcome your weaknesses. So I am low in politeness but high in compassion, which seems odd, but you know, so I have to use my compassion. I have to think, okay, this is a person over there. You know, they're 20 years old. They don't know the software even as good as I do. You know, so I have to be, and so that's difficult for me. Whereas I've seen like my 20-something employees do it with like such artistry. It's like, how did you manage that so well? It's like, you know, so it's interesting. My behaviors and my strengths. I use my strengths to overcome my weaknesses. I have to get enthusiastic about my accounting, you know. So you get to predict another person's behavior. So I can predict what my employee is going to be excited about. She'll be excited about new software, but not good at actually like learning it. You know, it's just not her thing. So she needs to be taken through like one step at a time. And that's what you're going to have to do. Like other people, when I go, it's like, okay, we're going to learn this new program, but don't worry, we got you. Every little step is going to be spelled out. You're going to have all the rules so you know exactly what to do. And then all the agreeable people go, all the steps are going to be spelled out. So that's what you're going to be trying to do. Here are the 5 behaviors that you can predict. The openness person is going to love to research and explore. The high Conscientious is going to work hard and organize. Get excited is the extrovert. Follow the rules is the person who is agreeable. Escape from danger is going to be your neurotics. So the same thing. Let's see, I'm just going to go down one here real quick. Who would enjoy the debate the most? The person high in openness. We'd love debates. It's like, oh, there's an argument over here? Hey, I'm in. Whereas my wife is like, there's an argument over there, I'll go this way. Work hard and organized. You know, I say, hey, we can go on vacation. My wife will think, you know how long it's going to take us to get organized to do that? And I'm like, well, yeah, well, how fun it's going to be. And so that's fine. You need both. Otherwise, we get all excited and get there and there'd be nothing organized. So what else we're going to do? So debate, overtime. The conscientious person is be all in for that. The extrovert will be excited. We can get pizza. It'll be fun. We'll all be together. The neurotic person is going to be like, that's going to be boring. Okay, so birthday. Extroverts are really excited if you're there like one-on-one, but like a whole party, that would be overwhelming. So we'll skip this exercise, but I've already talked about how extroverts, and we'll skip this one because we're running a little bit behind. There's a couple exercises trying to match the right people to the right job. All right, so turn to one person next to you. If you have, like, if it doesn't work out evenly, find a third. So like you guys at a table of 5 might need to just talk about how a personality difference made a relationship challenging or better. So just find a person next to you and say, yeah, here's a personality challenge, or here's a place where we're the same personality. All right. We'll let you pick up on that. All right, I got the 2 habits for this practice up on the screen here. Basically, we need to educate our leaders about the 5 factors. Lead people to their personality strengths. Okay, these are the habits for any good leadership in this practice. You need to develop this. People need to know this, so it takes a lot of education and review. You're not going to catch this in 5 seconds, even if you know the 5 words. Outcomes, 70% more engaged. This is where you engage your individuals, mostly. If you can get your individuals engaged with their personality, you get 70% more. Here's a story about a guy that got fired. So this was a Stanford, one of those entrepreneurs in the early 2000s that dropped out of Stanford after buying a frat house and turning it into a nightclub, made $100,000 there, converted that into his first startup where this is back in the internet, like he made a news publishing thing on the internet, sold that for $10 million, and then went and started a new startup with a financial internet company. And he was the new CEO of this financial internet company. And he was in there with another partner and an investor. And they just didn't like his personality. His personality, he was always coming up with new ideas. He couldn't focus on the task at hand, and when he did, it wasn't right. And they just thought his personality was all wrong for being a CEO. They're just like, he's not CEO material. So when he went on a vacation to Australia, the board got together and the investors and everybody else ganged up, fired him, kicked him out of the company completely. Who's this entrepreneur? Elon Musk. Not CEO, personality. No. So we can miss personalities, can't we? Probably one of the worst firings of all time as to who's not a good CEO. Here's another personality pair. Henry Ford and James Couzens. You've probably never heard of James Couzens because he's the introvert of the two, and he's the organized and the neurotic of the two. He could see the dangers. He could see what needed to be done. He could put everything in order. Ford was the visionary. He knew how to do cars. He wanted to learn about this, and he had great ideas. But Couzens was always right behind him with the right financial plans and the right organizational plans, and he would put all things together. And the two of them were a superpower together because they covered about all the personality traits, and they led the company together for years until Henry Ford couldn't take it anymore. And they had a personality conflict, and it hurt the company's future development because the two personalities couldn't take their differences. So there's a lot in business where if they could learn to appreciate their weaknesses and strengths and get along, sometimes, it's very hard. My wife and I, we see things very differently. And so we bug each other a lot. But now I can look at it and go, oh, it's because of your personality, not because you're trying to. And then she can see me and go, it's not because you're trying to do this, it's because you see it differently. So we're much more open. We have these much more explicit conversations about how we're interacting, how we're seeing the world. And when you're on, I'm 100% in openness, and she's maybe 10% in openness. So she can understand why I like doing all this stuff. And then I can understand, well, how come you don't like talking about this stuff? But we now understand why. Because it's a fixed behavior. It's not something my wife is eventually going to change to. She's always going to be that way. That employee is never going to change a personality trait. But we'll find out later what things they could change, but never these personality traits. So accept them. That's personality science. When people are accepted and valued for who they are, they feel valued.